Just as I got about 3/4 of the way through it, a huge wave came in and slammed me up against the rocks, and it's got coral on it, so my back got kind of cut up a little bit. Oh, and the water is so cold. So yeah, that was kind of scary for me being in there. All of a sudden that big wave came in, it came up over my head, and then the undertow started moving the sand and moving me, and yeah, so it was kind of scary. All right, I got to rest for a little bit. I got to get some feeling back in my legs. My feet are completely numb. It was a long day today. Hot too. We went to Pacific City or Pacific Coast City or something like that, and they have a big, huge beach right along the Pacific coast. And so we went out there and we swam for a number of hours. And man, is that water cold. Seriously, I mean, it was right around 100 degrees. That water temperature had to be 45, 50 degrees, maybe. I mean, I went out about knee deep. I had to turn around and come back in because my shins were just freezing. And then I went back out and I got a little bit deeper. Still had to come in because my legs were just, again, they were pins and needles and stuff. My feet were pins and needles. Finally, the third time, I go, well, I'm just going to run out in the ocean and dive over a wave and just get all the way in and stuff like that. At least, that way I can say I did it. And I actually did that like maybe 2, 3, 4 times, something like that. And there were times where, I mean, I'm 6.5 feet tall, and there were times where I was out deep enough to where when a wave hit me, it picked me up off the floor of the sand, or the wave actually went over me. So yeah, I was out there pretty far, but lots of sun. You can probably see on my shoulders. I'm pretty red. After swimming, we went over to a tide pool area. We went over there and checked it out, and the tide was coming in at the time, so the tide pools we went to go see were actually kind of flooding out, and there wasn't a whole lot. Vic and I saw maybe a couple crabs, but that was about it. Along that big rock wall face, there were a couple of caves and stuff like that, and you can actually, if you're daring enough, you can actually get into that and kind of explore a little bit. And, well, one kind of dead ends, and let's see, me and Ellie, and I think Avery was with us as well, went back into that one pretty much as far back as we could go. But again, because the tide was coming in, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time in that cavern because I think it could fill up pretty quickly. after that, we got out, and Ellie wanted to go to the other cave. Well, it's not really a cave. It was maybe only 20 feet deep, but it was more of a tunnel that you can go through. It was 20 feet deep, but it was probably about maybe 30, 40 feet high. But I started going through it, and I was able to walk in the sand and work my way through it, and it kind of bottlenecked, so it was really wide, and then it narrowed up, and then it was wide again on the other side. And just as I got through that bottleneck area, and I was maybe 3-4 feet past it, a huge wave came up, and I mean huge, and it picked me up off the floor and slammed me up against the rocks. And of course the rocks are all covered in barnacles and stuff like that, and I ended up getting my my left elbow scratched up quite a bit. My back got scratched up quite a bit, but my toe, it slammed into the rock. You know, the current just took my foot and slammed it right up against the rock, and it's all bruised up and stuff like that. I took a picture of it. I'll show you. So yeah, so that was pretty much the end of my swimming. After that, I was like, I'm done. I'm hurting now. And after a while, we all decided, well, let's go back to our setup area in the main portion of the beach, and we'll throw together some lunch. And all of a sudden, Steve, Heidi, Bruce, and Jen wanted to go up to a brewery that was set back from the beach a little bit, and I think it was called the Pelican Brewery or something like that. And so they went up there, and Kathy, Izzy, Ellie, Avery, Tim, Vic, and myself all stayed down, and we ate some sandwiches, and we had our lunch. Well, we really weren't in the mood anymore to swim. It's kind of one of those things that we'd had enough. The water is so cold and stuff. Well, finally, about an hour has gone by, and Steve, Heidi, Bruce, and Jen still haven't come back from the brewery. And so I text them. It's like, hey, what's going on? When are you guys coming back? And all of a sudden I get a reply saying, oh, we'll be back in an hour or so. It's like, what? An hour? It's like, no, I don't think so. I told Tim and Avery and everybody else that, let's start loading up the truck. And I texted them back. I said, we're loading up the truck and we're going to leave soon. I was kind of upset that, they're actually thinking that we're going to wait for another hour. I mean, maybe they said it as a joke. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. But I wasn't taking it as a joke. I'm thinking that they were really thinking they're going to sit up there for another hour. And I mean, I was getting pissed. I was to the point where I was going to say, if you guys want to go up to the brewery and sit with them and do whatever, I go, but I'm going to jump on my bike and I'm going to head back. That was my thought. Well, it ended up being that by the time we got the truck all loaded up, which probably took maybe 15 minutes or so, just as we were finishing up loading up the truck, they came back and we rode over to Tillamook, something like that. And there's a huge cheese ice cream manufacturing place over there. It kind of reminds me of like Edward's Apple Orchard, except with ice cream and cheese instead of apples. So they make their own cheeses and age it, and they have different types, and they've got jellies and t-shirts and jams, and of course they have probably 30 different types of flavors of ice cream, and all of it's homemade and everything, and it was really good ice cream. It really was. And then the next discussion was, well, what are we going to do for dinner? Well, Heidi said that she found a seafood place, but again, it's back by the coast, which is fine. It was only like 15 minutes away. Well, we arrived, and it's a nice place, and Steve, Heidi, and the kids brought their little dog, Toby, and he's a cute little dog, but he's not. There was a sign actually posted saying that dogs were not allowed on the dining deck. They tied him up to a post, down on the ground, tied him to a deck post and let him be. And as we were kind of waiting for our waitress to come take our order, all of a sudden here comes Toby up on the deck. And the little shit had gotten off of his, he actually has a harness on, and somehow he was able to get out of that harness. Well, Heidi gathers him up and takes him back down, puts the harness back on. I don't know if she adjusted it in any way, shape, or form. And she comes back and she sits down and we're talking again. And maybe 5 minutes later, here comes Toby. And so finally they're like, well, you know what? We can't do this. We got to keep him in the car, which she really didn't want to do, and I don't blame her because it's so hot. But she rolled down the windows a bit, not enough for him to get out, but to where he can at least get some air. And I think she maybe gave him some water in the vehicle and stuff like that. So, she knows how to take care of animals. She does it all the time. But anyway, we were sitting there for probably a good solid 15 minutes before our waitress even came and took our drink order. It seemed to take maybe another 15 minutes before we even got the drinks. Comes back maybe 10 or so minutes later. Might have been more like 15. And she wants to know if we're ready to place our orders. So we placed our orders and everything. Gosh, I think it had been close to 45 minutes. And we still had not gotten our dinners yet. I mean, it's been a long time. We're hungry and stuff like that. And finally, they started bringing out the dinners. Anyway, I'm sitting way down at one end of the table, and Bruce, Kathy, Steve, Heidi, they're way at the other end of the table. And I'm sitting there, I'm eating my food, and I'm talking with Jen and stuff like that. And I'm getting done, and I'm kind of cleaning up around myself a little bit, and I look down to Bruce, and he looks at me and goes, we still haven't even gotten our food yet. And it's like, what? It's probably taken me a good 20-30 minutes to eat my dinner, and the 45 minutes wait for us to even get our food, and they haven't even received theirs yet. Well, then, I think it was probably a good solid half hour, 40 minutes after everybody else has already eaten. Steve and Bruce finally got their food. Well, while they were waiting for their food, they gave them some breadsticks, some garlic bread, and a couple of cups of clam chowder and stuff like that. And they were really sorry that they screwed it up and everything, and that we had to wait so long. And at the same time, it's like, we deserve better than this. And the manager actually came out, I guess, and said that there will be no charge for Steve and Bruce's food. There was going to be no charge for the breadsticks and the clam chowder that they received. And it's like, well, yeah, I would hope so. And of course, they were sitting there going on, well, we only have 3 cooks going. It's like, no, that's not an excuse. But she was like, well, I'm probably a little bit past half a tank. He goes, I don't want to really push it because it's like an hour and a half drive to get back. And I looked at my tank and it's like, yeah, I'm probably just above half a tank myself. And I didn't realize it because I had earphones in and stuff like that, and I was listening to music. But apparently shortly after Steve and I pulled into the gas station, Bruce got pulled over by the cops, apparently for running a light. I guess the light had turned yellow, and Bruce actually still kept going, and the cop thought that he could have stopped. I don't know if he got a ticket or not. He didn't actually tell me or say, but yeah, so we thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, we got all the way back to the house, and Everybody's back in bed, and I just wanted to do this little recording just to kind of get everybody caught up, because I didn't have this camera with me. I didn't have my GoPro with me. All I had was my phone, and the damn thing wouldn't turn on. I've been having problems with it. I've dropped it a couple of times, and ever since then it really hasn't worked properly. Every so often it just shuts off. And sometimes it will turn back on, sometimes it won't, sometimes it's just gotta sit. Usually if I have a charger cord, I can just plug it in and it starts right back up, but there was no way I could do that. Oh, anyway, I'm getting ready for bed. So I'll see you in the morning.